I know Jill is coming. She will be here.
When she comes, we'll have her come join us. So welcome to all of you volunteers for this task force. We're going to start with just a brief introduction of everybody, just so we all know who we're going to have the pleasure of working with. And then we're going to have a presentation by Dr. Amy Gregory. And then we'll go on to just discussing some potential ideas. What we'll be doing is just really brainstorming and putting together some potential ideas that we will bring to the City Commission. I just want to make sure everybody knows that we are not making decisions. We are not giving any direction. All we are doing is saying, as a group, we have some ideas for them to consider to address how we can make improvements overall in our golf course and the country club. So Dr. Gregory has done some surveys and some analysis, and she's got some talking points that she's going to present to us as we get started. And so that'll kind of be the foundation to kind of get us going. But I just want to really reiterate that we are not here to make decisions. We are here to come up with ideas and suggestions that will be completely at the discretion of the city's commissioners to decide the direction they want to go. So to begin, my name is Patricia Draycott. I'm the City of Cocoa Beach CFO, and I have been asked to chair the task force.
Laird McLean, Leisure Services Director. I'm here to listen and pass on all the wonderful suggestions that we have from this board.
Jill Olson, citizen of Cocoa Beach.
Tim Tumulty. I've been on a few committees and boards, currently the Leisure Board and President of Main Street.
Former
Avid
commissioner.
golfer.
Commissioner,
Former mayor.
Former mayor, former commissioner. That too. Art show council.
This goes on and on.
It's Bill Busk.
Yeah, Wes Mason on the planning board and also avid golfer.
Orson Tarver resident. I'm also on the planning board. And I do actually have a question about what you're saying, and I thoroughly understand that there would not be any voting or anything like that or decisions, but are we going to have the ability to dig deep into things like finance and things like that so that the recommendations we make to the board are properly informed on?
Actually, that would be encouraged. And so if during the course of this meeting, you guys ask for financial information, that's part of what my role is I'll be able to bring that back for your review and consideration. So absolutely feel free to dig deep in terms of that, or Laird can be able to provide you numbers on play, anything like that, any kind of stats that you need that will help you as you think about potential opportunities to make improvements. And improvements, as Dr. Gregory will speak on, can be at lots of levels. It can be monetary revenue resources coming in. Mm-hmm. It could be improvements. It could be improvements that potentially don't require financial resources. I don't play golf, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't play golf either, so I'm actually excited. And then also one more thing to know, is this governed by the Sunshine Laws, and we should not speak about anything that none of us members should speak about any of this outside of this forum?
I do believe it is.
That is also my understanding. So
I'm always asked to make sure everyone else is clear too, because I know it's being recorded. So I think I know on the planning board that's the rules. We sit next to each other, but we don't
Outside of here.
and you can talk about other things, just not this.
Yeah, right.
So the conversations about the task force should be during one of the meetings.
Okay.
And we're probably going to have two more after this. We're looking at Wednesday the 17th and Wednesday the 31st. So just 2 weeks from now and then 4 weeks from now at the same time.
So you're expecting this to only have 3 meetings?
The other task forces have met for 3, but if we find that we just cannot get it done within that time frame, we can, I'll let the city manager know and we can have an additional meeting. But I'm hoping that we can. Right now, we've been asked to limit it to an hour, but if we find that we're making good progress, but we're just not quite there, we can make that decision. Mr. McLean
And
can.
I'm sorry for interrupting. I'm sorry, I totally sidetracked the introduction. Sorry. I apologize. Go
problem.
ahead, sorry.
Barbara Brennan, Cocoa Beach resident.
Steve Romano, 52-year resident of Cocoa Beach and played here since it was the original 18 holes. I've been here a long time.
Very nice. Well then, I will turn it over to you, Dr. Gregory.
To people that live in Cocoa Beach, I'm just Amy. When I'm in the classroom, I guess I'm Dr. Gregory. Just a little bit of background on me. I live here. My husband, like Steve, born and raised in Cocoa Beach. Happy to be a resident here. I'd say my real career was with the Marriott Corporation, and what I did with them was asset management and revenue management. When the economy got bad back in 2008, 2009, I talked the Marriott Corporation into funding my PhD and doing some work for them. That brought me into academia, which my specialization is in lodging and again, revenue management, asset management. But all of that parlays into tourism and visitation and all those types of things. So based on the practical experience that I have and the education, which is important to academia, I've then moved that into how can I help different groups with tourism, asset management within those types of things. That led me to, it was Brevard County back in probably 2010, 2011, where they had a new director of Parks and Rec there, and she's facing all of Brevard County and everything that encompasses. And the commissioners at the time were not real interested in the golf courses there. They were carrying 3 golf courses. So my graduate students and I took on a project to evaluate those 3 courses and make a determination about could they survive on their own, or should we disposition some of them? And that's in fact what happened. We recommended that they disposition Savannah's, which went back to that homeowners association. And then we improved Spessart Holland and Habitat in terms of benchmarking and positioning within the community. And we brought in an independent external group, which has now become Golf Brevard, and they oversee the courses. So they're in charge of all the hiring and that type of thing. I sat on that board for years until UCF made it illegal for me to sit on boards. And now I remain a special advisor to the board. And primarily what I do for them is pricing, again, along the lines of asset management and revenue management. And I do their annual surveys. I do data analysis for them here and there. So with all of that going on, and when I was involved in that, I was asking the course here about, tell me about how the rounds are here and how do things work and on and on and on. That moved into, just about a year ago, conversations with Laird and others at the city of Cocoa Beach, that there was a lot of stuff that I had done with Golf Brevard, and we could probably transfer a lot of that information or knowledge or some of those activities to here in Cocoa Beach. So
Just so I understand, Golf Brevard is a private company or is it a county board?
they're an LLC.
Okay.
Yep, they're standalone. What they were really was 5 old guys who wanted cheap golf, and they wanted to retain inexpensive golf for that area of the county. And so they jumped right in. They hired a fantastic general manager who came up from Vero Beach. The guy really knows agronomy. I worked with him to work out some compensation issues and some staffing issues, and he is the golf guy, and I'm the numbers, data, research person. So the two of us have worked together for years, and those courses are now extremely profitable. Being involved with those, anybody would have that information because it's public knowledge, it's county. But working with them, I've got direct access to their monthly rounds report and things like that. So I prepare a report for Laird every month that includes their rounds, our rounds. Because of my background in hotels and tourism, I look at touristic arrivals to see are we keeping pace in terms of how many rounds we have here related to that. That's our best measure Here in Orlando, we can use airport arrivals and departures. Here, it's a little bit more difficult. But anyway, so I have a vested interest in the city and the community because I'm a resident here. I am a golfer, but I don't think that you need to be a golfer to appreciate the course for the asset, and not just the course, but the entire facility here. I mean, the room that we're in is a fabulous meeting space. We've got, you all know what we have here. So I think there's a lot that we can do. So I guess it was probably March, April last year, started talking with Laird and others at the city about how I might be able to help out with some of those things. So some of you might remember in July of last year, I launched an incredibly huge survey that was entirely too long. If I were grading my own survey, I would have given myself a C+, the plus for effort, because I threw everything in on that. But we thought we've got one shot to go out to a community who's interested in what we're asking about. And we wanted to move away from what one person might think or what one person might feel and go and look at what does the population say? What are they telling us? So we focused it primarily on the golf course, but we included the tennis courts and the pool. We didn't include the beaches. We were more focused on this area of it. And interestingly enough, for as long as the survey was, typical survey should take you 5 to 7 minutes, and people don't mind doing that. Mine was pushing 12 to 15 if you were really interested. But we got a huge response. I think I've already touched on all of that. I think I've touched on that as well. And I'm happy to make this presentation and any of the information related to it available to all of you. I think the more we all can see the facts, the better. So I called it an exploratory survey because we were really looking at behavioral intention and preferences. So the kind of awkward thing with that is I can't go back and say, here's exactly what happened, but this is what people intend to do or what their preferences are. But then presented with other information, they could change their behavior and they could change their preferences. But we got a lot of really good stuff out of there. So focused on the golf course in the 19th hole, added the amenities, and we even looked at services. With Robin being a new city manager, she said, you know what, let's just throw in there all the different departments in the city and see what people's general feelings are. Are they happy about that? So we put that in there. We also wanted to know if people were county residents or city residents, so we included that. And then the typical demographics, age, income, employment, household, those types of things, presence of children, whatever. So we did the survey middle of July, which is an awful time to run a survey because it's summertime and people aren't generally engaged. But again, we had a target population that was very interested. And what we saw was they were not only very interested, but they participated beyond any expectation that we had. So the city provided about 8,400 email addresses. Almost 300 of them were bad. They were invalid or they were blocked by the mail person. We had 82 duplicates in there, 5 were ineligible. As a university employee, I'm not allowed to survey anybody that's under 21 years of age, so I had to eliminate anybody that was included in there. We have kids that come out here and golf that provided their email address as an example, so couldn't include them. So our net email distribution was roughly 8,000 individuals, which is a really darn good number for a population of about, 14,000?
It's just over 11.
Winter.
11.
15.
So,
In the winter, with the snowbirds.
yeah, and that's the thing. We had some people in here who were not residents. So in terms of the metrics that we would use to determine how well we're doing, we had 15% click-through, which is huge. Typical mail like this gets a 1 to 3% click-through rate. So the fact that we got 15% of the people getting the email that came from me, not from the city of Cocoa Beach, asking them to complete a survey with a link these days, right? 15% is extraordinary. On top of that, then we received an 89% completion rate for a survey that could have been at least 15 minutes long. So that's an investment in time, which again is very favorable. 12% overall response rate when we do the math. So we had 927 completed surveys, 164 partial responses, and then an additional 139 that went through an anonymous link. So once we emailed the survey out, it also went through the CBNN to say, in case you haven't seen it, we're running a survey if you want to provide your information. Those partial responses, I take those and then I extrapolate the responses where they didn't complete. I extrapolate that against the larger population. So what that looks like is I go in and I do the demographics and things like that and say it's most likely that that person would make this response. So I give them that response. I eliminate that for all analysis, probably giving you more nerd data than you're interested in, but we potentially had a miss from seasonal residents and visitors that aren't engaged with the city and the golf course, but nonetheless, the responses that we had were certainly representative of the population here and what we call generalizable in terms of the quantity of responses that we got. It would not be wrong to generalize that against the entire population. So let's talk about what the respondents look like. Primarily residents, 74% of them live here year-round, but we did have 18% seasonal. And as I tell you these things, if you have questions or thoughts, I can't do it on the fly because I don't have my program here, but if you wanted to know, do those seasonal residents, do their preferences differ from our year-round residents? Those are easy things that I can pull out. And again, if you were to look at the city and your neighbors and say, you know what, we're probably on par with about 18% being seasonal and 74% year-round. 86% of those were property owners in Brevard County, 69% in Cocoa Beach, 9% in the Cape. And for Cocoa Beach, I use the Cocoa Beach zip code, so that does include like Snug Harbor, which technically is outside the city of Cocoa Beach. 7% from Merritt Island, 5% from Melbourne. These individuals golf 9 or 18 holes riding in a cart regularly in the mornings and the afternoons on both weekdays and weekends. Now, why that's important is because we do have 9-hole players and 18-hole players, and they differentiate themselves. Good news is they play in the morning and the afternoon and the weekdays and the weekends. When we did this for Golf Brevard, forgive me if I offend anybody, but it was a bunch of old, retired white men with good retirement income that only wanted to golf in the morning. And they only wanted to do it on Friday and Saturday, which have a tendency to be prime times, right? So that was the bad news down there. Here, they're spread out all over, so it's good news for us. They eat meals and happy hours out often, which is, again, is a good thing because we provide that service here. They are older, 47% were 65 plus, 35% were in that 55 to 64, primarily retired, married adults, but with a relatively high household income. So almost 70% of them had more than $100,000 in household income and no children at home. So that helps us understand a little bit more about who we're talking to. Now, certainly, you can fit all those holes with somebody else, but if we're looking at going after the big wins, you want to hit 80% of your group with a project that will work versus focusing on 10 or 20%, right? So that's why we do that. So here's just some of the pie charts that show the information that I just shared in summary format. If there's anything that you want me to stop on, please let me know. So this is property ownership. And you can see here I broke out like all survey respondents are on the top there, and then just those that are in the 32931 zip code. In which Brevard County do you live? Again, primarily Cocoa Beach. So on all of these charts, when you look at it, if you think about it like a clock and follow it around, that's the same way that the legend works. There's the age breakdown. So again, you can see the majority of the individuals are in the higher age brackets. And then occupation, a variety of different things out there, but a fair amount in that retired. That's that 58.4, the largest color up there. The income, again, a nice little spread. It's nice when you've got a pie chart that's spread out like that, particularly with the bigger wedges on left of 4 o'clock and moving up. Family structure, mostly without children. Okay, this is awful for you to see. And I don't see you being the furthest. I don't think that you can even gather anything from this. But on the left-hand side, I have all of the different ways that you could play. Riding, walking with a push cart, doing 9 holes, 18 holes, on the weekends, on the weekdays, on your own with a league, all of that. And then it goes 4 or more days a week, 2 to 3, 1 to 2, and never. And so even if you can just see spatially what you're looking at, the numbers are all pretty even, right? So what we see is that they're spread out all over. So we're not just dealing with a morning crowd, a group of people that just want to be out here in the morning. Specifically to the golf course on the 19th hole, the respondents are generally satisfied with the golf course, putting the greatest importance on the course condition and value for price paid. For those of you that are golfers, we know that we can play at other places that don't have weeds growing in the middle of the fairway. But here, that's somewhat acceptable because we have value for price paid. So they're not paying that much to golf, so they're a little bit more forgiving in terms of the conditions. But outside of that, when I asked them to rank the important things, value comes up at the top. So that's something I think that we all need to keep in mind as we go through this. We're not talking about real high-end golfers here, not that we can't get there, but they're okay now with the value that they're getting for the price that they're paying.
Can I just, being in tourism, do you think that's just simply because people are so used to the status quo and how things are, so they perceive that as value? And if they understand, psychologically, I mean, I travel. I'm a Titanium Elite with Marriott, Diamond with Delta. Travel a lot.
Thank you for my bonuses.
Yeah, I'm lifetime platinum now, so 700 rooms. But anyways, value. I just want to make sure I understand what you're. Actually, maybe it's more I need to understand. Mm-hmm. Are you equating value with being it's really inexpensive, or is it value because so much benefit for such a price, or are we paying a lot and getting a lot of value because we're spending a lot of money and we get a lot of value as a golfer?
In this case, it's an inexpensive place to play a fair round of golf. So we have better courses, and I'll get into it later. Duran is the benchmark. They're the price leader in our market. When Duran changes their prices, everybody else moves with them. We don't have the experience that Duran has, but we fit within a place in the market. Go back to hotels. When we get the Westin here, it's a hotel for a group of people, but Quality Inn still fits. There's still a group of people that want Quality Inn, and we see that here. There are people that either won't travel the distance for the experience or won't travel the distance for the price, so it becomes a trade-off. But when I asked them of all the different things that they want, and there were probably 30 different attributes that I asked, a starter, pace of play, a beverage cart on the course, lessons on the course, organized league play, all those things. The value was the thing that comes up to the top. And then in there, I asked how much would they pay for certain things, and it's on the lower end. Which again, not a bad thing. It's just something good to know.
No, I appreciate the explanation. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sorry, your voice was like bouncing around. They put the least importance, unfortunately, on services and amenities. So as an asset manager or a revenue manager, services and amenities are where I get the larger margin, right? It's really expensive to run a golf course. It's really expensive to run a golf course for people that want value golf. But we have an opportunity for people that come down here, and I asked this question in the survey, if they are not a resident here, when do they come, when do they leave, how much they play, also, what's the name of the home course that you play, so that I could go in and pull the rates on all those home courses so that we can show a huge value when they come here and they're paying the prices that they're paying here. And again, we did a similar thing at Golf Brevard. And in fact, I was standing in line to pay for my round in front of a gal who was from New York, down at Spessart Holland. And so the gal says, oh, and Amy, you'll get the loyalty discount. So I'm like, great. And the gal behind me says, well, what's my discount? And the person behind the counter said, you get the Florida discount because you're used to paying New York prices. And actually, I thought that was really good. She's like, yeah, right, I do get a good deal down here. Some 20% of the year-round resident golfers are interested in a paid membership at CBCC. I'll jump ahead to the ending here. We decided not to go that route, and I'll share the examples or the rationale for why. But we thought there's been some discussion of a membership here, and can they get discounts? And so I threw in all kinds of stuff. Would you want club storage? Would you want priority tee times? Would you want a parking space with your name on it? All those types of things. Almost 30%, or 1 out of 4 people said, yeah, they'd be interested in those things. And they put a price tag next to it. But as we were going through different things over the last almost year, our priorities shifted away from that to lower hanging fruit, if you will. The majority of the respondents indicated an interest in concerts, food and beverage tastings, instructional educational seminars, and potentially eating meals out and happy hours at CBCC. So the idea was, if you're not a golfer, but you're doing those things, would you do those things here? Again, knowing that we have to balance the interest of the city and the city's amenity and the downtown businesses and everything that they need to survive as well. All right, so some golf course specific data, and again, this might be too small for you all to see, but I had 40 or so factors or features of the golf course that I asked them to prioritize or that were important to them. So first you said, here's your list. It's not at all important to it's extremely important. If they answered somewhat, very, or extremely important, then in the next question that they got, those lists of things showed up, and I had them drag and drop the importance of those. So that way, what we could find out is what are the things that are really important and how important are those to everybody? Otherwise, we just say X amount of the people said it was extremely important, but that doesn't really help me because, when hurricanes come, my husband and I always have this joke. What's more important, electricity or water? Well, it really depends on what was the thing that came on last, right? Because you get by with electricity, without electricity, and when the water comes on, you wish you had electricity. So in this way, I'm able to actually have them force rank, so I can see it's not just extremely important, but all of the respondents pushed overall course condition as the most important thing. On a scale of 1 to 10, overall course condition with 1 being the most important, ranked a mean score of 2.5. So it's really high up there. And again, a mean is an average, right? So I have to have as many people rank it high as rank it low to make it come up as a 5. We got it up there as a 2.5. And then value for price paid. Then we've got location, having a tee time, pace of play. The other 2 columns that are on there are standard deviation and variance. It just shows me the strength of that ranking. So the greater the variance or the standard deviation, the more variability it is in that number. So again, the fact that we've got a small standard deviation on those top 2 items just strengthens the case all the more. That course condition and value for price paid are what are important to the group. Then what we have here is satisfaction with the different aspects of Cocoa Beach Country Club. Overall course condition, value for price paid, and pace of play commanded 80% of the satisfaction results. So we don't really need to go any further. What's grayed out in here are all the services. Beverage cart service, pro shop service, pro shop products, quality of the 19th hole menu items, all those types of things. So that's unfortunate. It just means that we won't get as much leverage there as we would like to have. So probably not the first thing that we would go after, not that it's not important, but we'll get more bang for our buck on the other things. So then I asked, let's see, opportunistically, how interested are you in calling the course to book a tea time? Not really. There are only about 37% that were very interested in doing that, but booking online to secure priority tea times, we're pushing up to 55% of very interested and almost 80% when you throw in the next level of somewhat interested. What I try to do here is look for where can we add value without adding cost. So booking online for priority tea times, booking online to get a discount price for your round. If we're not bogging down Sandy or Dan or whoever in the pro shop with taking a tea time, or the starter taking a tea time, they can do other things. Our group's interested in the discounts, so that can be good or bad. They'll prepay for those, they'll book online for those, and they will purchase a set number of rounds like we have now for a discount. The bad news there is 3 of those 4 that are highlighted include discounts, and discounts don't make money. If these golf-related activities were offered, would you participate? So our course gets a fair amount of utilization, but there are times when it's not utilized. So maybe we would look at foot golf or smash golf, or do instructional drills or challenges, again, to increase utilization, golf instruction, late afternoon socials. What they said they would be interested in, and it was only somewhat, the reason that the no column there is highlighted, the largest percentages, 70–80% are in the no column. So again, not really interested in that. Would you do these activities at CBCC? Golf, they already do. Maybe eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, and happy hour out, they might do. The highlights are the largest percentages there.
Could you go back to that one, please?
I think so. So this, Tim, was including golf, tennis, swimming pool, the food, boating, kayaking, canoeing, softball, baseball, fishing, bingo, card games, picnics, trivia.
So the total on the right, is that the total respondents?
Yes.
So we had 349 respond for golf, 40 responded for tennis, and then he says it goes down.
Yep.
So the highlighted ones are
The larger,
it's
the larger
groups.
numbers, exactly. Yeah, and I, again, because it was such a large survey, and by the time they got to this part of the survey, it was well beyond the things that I really wanted to know. This comes kind of into that opportunistic. Not to say that I don't care about the other things, but I wanted to make sure I hit on the meat of the survey before I started to lose respondents.
How was it data filtered? I mean, what is
This
it?
is
How's it
just-
organized? It's not. I don't see any column that's consistent. It goes from greatest to smallest.
It
Is
actually,
it in alphabetical order or
I already
something?
do. That's the, so what do they already do? That's the ranking.
Well, it goes 64 to 55 to 73 to 15, 19. I don't see a. That's what I'm saying. It just seems.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I'm getting from this.
What you're
Data.
getting from it is, you want to look for the largest percentage of, do they already do it, would they do it, wouldn't they do it, or might they do it? So when I look at it, I'm looking for things that they might. We already knew we had a ton of golfers responding to the survey. So they already do golf. Even though 55% say they already do tennis, there's only 40 of them that are responding. So I would start with my totals and then go from there as to where are my largest percentages. So 349 is my very largest over here. The biggest percentages that I already do. Then the next bigger numbers here, 193, 56, 469, they just might. The largest percentages are the mights. So again, it doesn't give us a whole lot to go on. In other words, when I'm making recommendations to the city from what I'm getting here, there's not enough data here for me to say, hey, you really need to go after that type of thing. Not to say that we can't focus another survey and do it again. This is purchasing the membership, and this is broken out between everybody at the very top and just the year-round resident golfers at the bottom. So interestingly enough, the percentages well, not interestingly enough, expected. Yes, interested in purchasing a membership. The golfers are more inclined to do that if that were something that we were going to offer. How valuable would the following features and benefits to you be as a member of CBCC? So this was food and beverage tastings, educational seminars, discounts, golf instruction, free range balls, blah, blah, blah. They only show up in the somewhat valuable. So my largest percentages are in the somewhat valuable. So again, not really coming up with anything in this list anyway, that they said, yeah, I absolutely definitely want that, and I would pay more for it. I always throw in a other fill in the blank, and I didn't get any responses in there. Or none, not enough that were meaningful, put it that way. So the coming from this, so again, thinking back to the reason we did this survey, or the city did the survey, was because we wanted to get away from what individual people that are involved think and their opinion, and move more to the masses and the voice of the respondents from the survey. So from that, we had to identify and agree upon what the city of Cocoa Beach objectives and priorities were. So what are we talking about in terms of the golf course? Is it a business moneymaker, or is it an amenity to the residents? And I was...
Is there anything in between those two? To me, that sounds like two extreme ends of a thing.
Sure.
Is there a middle ground? What
Sure.
would be like a middle ground?
Well,
Break even?
I think what we've done is we've priced it as an amenity for the residents, but we've created a business off of it. The recent price changes that we did were just a market correction to get us in line with the other courses in the area. So and I think I have information on that. Duran being the price leader, then you go down to what are the next courses in terms of price, because price and value should go together. Convenience, destination, things like that can usurp that and add to the price. But we determined that we were probably most comparable to Spessart Holland, Habitat, and Vieira East. And in fact, those are the places where when the people said they don't play at City of Cocoa Beach, those were the golf courses that they play at. So it makes sense that we could be priced comparably. Well, in fact, we were priced considerably lower, certainly than Spessart Holland and Habitat, and even lower than Vieira East. So we did a market correction to get ourselves back up there, but we kept pricing for the residents and business owners low, and we jumped pricing for Florida residents and non-residents. So visitors that come into the area.
So actually, in here, do you have I'm in radiology healthcare. We call it a payer mix. Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance, no-pay, self-pay.
Mm-hmm.
Is that later on in your presentation, like the payer mix of the golf course? Who's paying resident prices? Who's paying these prices?
I have some of that in another. Is that on here? The pricing. I can.
You know what I'm saying? So we know.
Yeah, I have looked at that since January, and I have that data.
We can catch up another time about it.
Yeah.
I was just curious because that's how we benchmark our
Yeah.
services, and when we provide these services, we are laser focused on payer mix, because you could have a hospital, if the payer mix is wrong, I mean, the hospital is in a slow decline.
Yep.
So anyways, yeah.
That's the reason why universities prefer to bring in out-of-state
International
students
students.
and international students. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of businesses work that in one way or another.
Yeah.
You you could draw the comparison to hotels as well. The hoteliers here will tell you that they're going to try to make their business in the winter, right? That January to March, April timeframe. And then when you make that, the rest of the year makes itself. But if you miss a little bit there, you get an opportunity to pick up in the summer. So my approach to this was the same way. We got to drive our rates in the wintertime on the backs of the tourists that come in. It's still value for price paid for them because we're going to be priced fairly in the market, but we're not going to undercut ourselves on them, but we're going to give our residents the value of an amenity. So that deep 25% discount on the rates. So kind of going ahead a little bit, but benchmark pricing and analysis and recommendations followed, and then we were looking at KPI and feedback monitoring, so that through the ongoing surveys. So here's the benchmark pricing. City of Cocoa Beach requested that. We got favorable feedback on the value for price paid, and it was a perceived low rate from the survey respondents. The idea to have a local amenity with loyal and frequent golfers and retain that the low-priced rounds for residents. What we have here is a destination course. People come to Cocoa Beach because of the destination. And then once they're here, they go to the Space Center, they hang out at the beaches or whatever. They play this course because of what this course is. Sure, they go and play other places too, but they're here and they're going to play Cocoa Beach. So we can push the limit, find the limit, but push the limit of what they're going to pay for. Now I've used local courses in the area to set my limits. So I'm not going to charge them any more than Vieira East would because that's the next logical place to go. But I am going to charge more than Savannah's because this is a completely different experience than Savannah's if it were my business. So those would be the recommendations. So we price it competitively. It will still remain attractive to the tourist and the seasonal visitors. So the data supports Duran Golf Club as the price leader. There are distinct course levels within the area. Bay Tree Habitat, Spessard, Vieira East, that's where we fall. Crane Creek, Turtle Creek, lower end courses. We were priced at the midpoint, but we have opportunities. We have 27 holes in one location. There are people that will come and play 27 holes, and we should market that and throw in a meal with it as well, or drinks or whatever it might be. We offer 9 to 18 hole tee times all through the day. You can't get 9 hole tee times at Duran in the season. We also let people walk. You can't walk at Duran or I think Bay Tree in the mornings during winter season. But we allow people to do that.
I'm not a golfer. Why? I don't understand why.
Walking takes longer, and it's cheaper.
Some of those courses are built to you can't walk from one hole to another.
Yeah, so you make them rent a cart, spend more money, and they get through the course quicker.
Gotcha. Okay.
Unless it's me and I walk quickly.
Yeah. Some people.
We also, the market has weekday and weekend pricing, and we went away from that some time ago for good reason. But it makes sense to bring it back, put a premium on the weekends. Now, when I say that, there's no premium on the weekends for residents, but for visitors, Florida residents or non-residents, they would pay a premium for that. And then instead of offering flat out, we used to have the Friday afternoon deal, and the course was totally crowded. We would offer special condition or special event pricing. So we would work that into what would be approved by the city so that we could enact that at whatever time we needed to. And then loyalty pricing and some seasonal programming. So here was what was recommended and what was put in place with the last commission meeting anyway that I was at. We want to go to a single published rate, so it's not so hard anymore. You know what the rate is to play 18 holes, whether it's first thing in the morning, afternoon, after 2 o'clock, or unlimited walking. We price ourselves at 70 to 80% of the market leader. Yep.
You say single published rate, but it's still a tiered rate based on you living in Cocoa Beach, the county, the state, or out of state.
Right. But when you walk into the golf shop, into the golf pro shop, and most pro shops have their rates there, we would only publish rack rate, or that one rate. It's 10% off of that for Florida residents. It's 25% off of it if you're a City of Cocoa Beach resident. If you're a loyalty member, those that pre-purchase the certificate, you get that flat rate all the time whenever you pay. But we're not going to, as an example, when we talked about doing some food and beverage specials in the 19th hole, on the board, they put the special up there with the big price, and then they said at the bottom, the residents get a 25% off discount or 20% off discount, whatever it was. Well, other people got up in arms. I'm not a resident, but I'm here for 6 months out of the year. I want that discount. Instead of just publishing the one rate, get everybody used to that rate. We own that rate and we believe in that rate. But Tim, because you live here, you get your 20% off. Make sense?
Yep. So you're saying there's no morning rate and a twilight rate?
No,
also?
there is. We still,
So
yeah.
that's my point again. So there were 4 rates: local, county, state,
Single-
and out of state. And then there's also a
Which is-
pre-twilight rate, a twilight rate. It gets kind of confusing for the people that are actually behind the desk to know what the rate is, because it's also different Monday through Thursday, Sunday through Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday. So, I could run a data sheet here and come up with 50 rates on that single published rate.
When I say single published rate, I mean is if you walk into the golf course
I
at
know
11.
what you're saying. I know what you're saying about percentage, but it makes it sound like, oh, we just have one rate, and we don't. It's different for. It's different. I bet
There's one
I bet if this whole group went to go get a rate right now, we would get three different rates.
Well, that shouldn't be the case. It may be the case. If you walk into any golf course, the time and your mode of movement throughout the course and the number of holes that you play is going to dictate what you pay. So you go in at 11 o'clock, there's one price. My point about the single published rate is there's one rate, and then there are discounts off of that based on your category.
But can I say something? I understand what you're saying, but with this survey and with Amy's help, we are changing that.
Okay.
So that when you go in there, when this person goes in there, when that person goes in there, it will be the same rate. I understand exactly what you're saying, but there will be one rate. Yes, I know it's happened in the past, but we're changing that mentality. We're changing that now too. Yes.
Some of it is, and I go through the transaction data every month, and it's confusing. There are old rates in there that people have used for a long time, and what we're doing moving forward is eliminating those rates and going to what each of the categories are. Again, very consistent with the rest of golf pricing in the market. So the before noon pricing, noon to 2 or noon to 3, after 3, weekday, weekend, walking, riding, 9 and 18. So from that single rate, we then have 3 discount categories. The lowest rate is the loyalty or their certificate pricing, which is twilight rate. Then there's local resident, business, and property owners who are 25% off the published rate, and Florida resident who are 10% discount. Everybody else pays published rate. We added weekend pricing year-round, which goes into effect on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday because there's a premium for touristic arrivals and stays on those days. Again, the weekend pricing does not go into effect for Cocoa Beach residents. As an amenity, they're going to pay the same rate regardless of what day that they play here. Twilight and unlimited walking prices consistent year-round. The idea there was to come up with a meaningful rate for 9 or 18 holes during twilight and unlimited walking times. Limited fill pricing as needed for slow and off-peak periods, and that's where I'm talking about if we want to enact a special because we're doing aerification, or we've had an awful lot of water, or it's cart path only for 4 days in a row, or whatever. It might make sense at that point to enact fill pricing. And then moved the idea of bundling services, rounds, food and beverage, because again, we've got all of that here. The next thing was KPI and feedback monitoring. So this, you all may have seen it, but how are we doing? So ongoing, let's find out what do people think. I'll tell you that this has not been as successful as I had hoped that it would be. We started doing this where are we now? We're in May. We started doing it February, I think.
February, March,
Late,
summer.
yeah, maybe late January. Put these out everywhere that we could, and to date, we only have 95 responses. So the 95 responses from the survey aren't enough against the population to say that this is generalizable, but it does give us a good indication of what people are thinking. So what I put into place was a touch point or a net promoter. You may have heard of this a while ago. It's pretty much asking people, would you recommend us or not? It's a super easy measure. And then we look at the customer expectations for specific areas, the golf course, the 19th hole, banquet and meeting spaces. We wanted to know about their overall experience, their product quality, the value, and then employees in terms of, are the employees helping you with what you need? Are they, are you happy? We segmented out the respondents again because I wanted to understand snowbirds' attitudes versus locals' attitudes. And so there you go. Our data collection began at the end of January. And that's underway. But again, we've got 95 people, so there's really not a whole lot to do there. In addition to that, now that we have enacted the pricing, I've gone back since January and I do an analysis of all the rates that were charged, the rate categories that were charged, and I do a nice little pie chart and a grid of how many individuals do we get at these different rates. I also look at gift certificate sales, driving range, pull carts, things like that, just to see what's going on, primarily on the course. So we definitely have a lot of work to do. I think the adjustment to market pricing was a positive thing, and in fact, I'll just go off memory, but I believe so the rates went into effect late March. In April, we made $14,000 more than we would have, something like that. In March, I think it was 10 or 12,000 more. There were some misses in there, so things were miscoded or maybe sold accidentally at the wrong rate. And so we missed about $8,000. Unfortunately, for the last month, because of the process, the price increase hit at the wrong time. It hit just as the snowbirds were leaving, and no real improvements have been made here for them to see or us to see. But in terms of the price increases, they primarily hit the Florida residents and the published rate. We went up $1 or $2 here and there on residents, nothing on loyalty.
Great.
One thing I will say is that and Laird and I have talked about this, we did this survey last July, and we did it kind of everything in the kitchen sink, but very directed based off of the experience that I had with Golf Brevard and then just my tourism knowledge. We certainly have an opportunity to survey again, and those are things that as an employee of the university I can do and do very easily. So that's something that I would encourage you all to think about. What do we want to know now, or what do we want to know that we didn't know before? And look at doing something like that again.
By chance, did you read the 2015 study that the city did? I think it was close to $60,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are we able to get a copy of that?
I'll give you, I have a copy, man. I'll get you a copy right away.
That's the,
That's,
that's,
that's something I think we should all read and look at.
Yeah, I would like that.
that was the golf consultant?
Yes, DGA.
Oh, yeah.
Do you, I'm just curious, actually, probably because we're getting along, I shouldn't say anything, so we should get along in time. Should we set the mission real quick, like what we want to accomplish?
Well, I think we need to.
Sorry, I don't want to start
I
rambling.
think we need to determine if this is going to be Robert's rules and start using that kind of little bit of a process. It doesn't have to be strict.
Sure.
There are a lot of variations to it. It can be looser, but we need somebody to chair, and I'm going to nominate you to be the chair.
Actually,
No.
Mr. Talty, with all due respect,
Oh,
the city manager is already assigned a chair,
Oh,
and
I
you're
said that
stuck with me,
Okay.
you're the chair?
unfortunately.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's not
I'm sorry, I didn't know
I would have been
that. God bless you. I
I
didn't.
would have been happy to pass the
Thank you,
baton,
Tim. She would love to pass it.
but I do like my job.
I was just saying because
Or
the other
truthfully,
committees
the only
that
reason he
were
did that
formed,
was
we
he knew I was
kind of
about to
had
nominate him.
I made,
Little different.
I irritated my boss, and she made me the chair. I have to work with him now.
There you go. All right.
I do think it's important we set, Madam Chair, I think it's important we set the mission.
I
and What
agree.
we hope to accomplish, and what areas of focus.
I agree. And so I would encourage the task force to think about the areas, there were a lot of areas that Amy covered that we can look at, so are there improvements to the golf course and what magnitude of improvements? If it's weeds, for God's sake, Laird, that one shouldn't be that difficult to improve. Is it something more? Now, golf carts right now are pretty nice. They're brand new, pretty much. They're, 14 months old? So, are we talking about improvements to the course itself? Is there more aesthetics? Are there more golf things?
Can you
that-
talk
I
about
would
the
like
budget
to-
from
yeah,
last
I would
year,
like
like
to-
how the golf course did financially in 2022?
Absolutely.
Real quick, and then we can go from there maybe.
Yeah.
That'd be a good starting point.
Also
But
be able
before
to
we-
get
could
this
I,
material. I can't remember all that, and I couldn't see a lot
Yeah,
of
we
it, to
can
be
get-
honest with you.
we can get you a copy.
Yeah.
Before we talk about budget, I actually just wanted to, I have a suggestion on areas of focus, I thought, or the task force mission that I'd like to bring to you guys. So, so I would, I'm not a golfer, so I'm looking at this in probably a totally different light than most other folks here. But I think there's 3 areas we should take a look at before we really think about improvements and stuff. It's like, number 1, finance. Profit and loss for 9th hole, the course, and the pro shop. I understand from what I've been told is the course it's constantly losing money, which I get it's an amenity. But every time I've talked to people, no one actually seems to be able to communicate or knows what's losing money. Where's the problem, or is there even a problem? So I thought that'd be a good area of focus, and I think it's wonderful, Golf Brevard or Golf Inc., and your finance. So it'd be really, I think, important to look at where we are here compared to what would maybe Spencer Holland. I know it's not apples to apples, because
So one of the reports I provide to Laird every month includes our rounds year over year. But then
their
we're
expenses.
only as good as everybody else's, right? So if we're increasing our rounds by 10%, but everybody else is increasing theirs by 15, then we're missing the boat. I've only looked at a couple of months worth of data, but we've exceeded growth in comparison to Spencer Holland and Habitat. So now what I'm layering in are those, the hotel occupancies in the
Okay.
area, but we're actually doing very well.
Do you have access to the expenses to make the expenses to run the place?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I haven't had any need to look at that. I look at the transactional data to see what's being sold.
Okay. Okay,
Expenses
so-
with here? or
No, I mean
please?
around the finance. I was
Here?
yeah, here.
Yeah, we can get you that.
Okay,
We can
so
get
I was
expenses
thinking that
here,
would be
yeah.
3 areas of
Laird
focus
has all that.
to see that. And then number 2, I think operations. And then finally 3, capital, like what is on the horizon? Like what are the dollars we're looking at in a few years? So thought I'd propose that because The number one thing with the finances, I think, is the biggest concern for the average taxpayer like me who doesn't play golf. Because again, since the 2015 study that identified actually a lot of issues, I think, it was quite clear that some problems, I think, on the expense side of the ledger. It'd be really interesting to see, in 2015 we were here, where are we today? And then also what also got me really interested is also, I know inflation has probably hit those golf courses, has hit this golf course. How is that impacted? How is that impacting Cocoa Beach Country Club? And I'm saying that, I'm only just saying this as questions to answer that I think a lot of taxpayers would like to know and understand. Versus, I mean, I think it's great to know the rounds played and stuff, but it just seems so opaque. And it'd be nice to really have an idea of that, because, that is my idea as a mission for the task force. So I don't know if you guys agree or not, but that was what I wanted to put out here on the first meeting, and it's why I'm here.
I would caution you on that earlier study that was done.
Okay.
That group has a tendency to, they'll come in, they'll blanket a lot of different things, because what they're trying to do is start with a low price thing that then you bring them in to make all these
Okay.
changes. But they're also, the experts, so I've seen it at a couple of different places. There's some good stuff in that. And I know a lot of the things were implemented here in terms of being more efficient. So we don't need sand traps everywhere. We could have waste areas instead. Waste areas don't need to be maintained, but sand traps do.
Well, and I read that report 9 years ago. I just want to update, reread it again, because they put some things out there like that we didn't do. Like, people complain. We have a league right out there now called the League of Extraordinary Idiots. 26 of my buddies are out there. Tim and I and Wes and I play in that. The beer girl quits at 4 o'clock. We tee off at 4:30. I mean, that report called for 2 beer carts, because it was one of the complaints. So instead of having 2 beer carts 9 years later, we have 1 beer cart that quits at 4:30. I mean, it's Tim and I played in the Cocoa Beach High School football tournament. That football tournament is more than a golf tournament. It's a reunion of people that don't even play in the tournament come out in the morning to see their friends. There was 200 people out there on the pavilion at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the 19th hole is not open. I couldn't imagine how many Bloody Marys or mimosas or beers or breakfast sandwiches could have been sold that morning.
Operations.
Yeah, well, operations are you.
Yeah.
Well, and I agree. I think there's a miss there in lodging, hospitality. What we do every morning is a stand-up. So you'd have your general manager and your food and beverage person and your, if you've got a golf course or a spa or, all the leads of all your main areas. Here's what's happening on site today, and here's where I need people to deploy. Or, hey, Steve, I'm gonna need your help because I'm out 2
Right.
people, so who can I borrow from you?
Well, and I've told this story a few years. I know you've been here a
If I can
while.
interject real quick, Amy, you probably need to be up at the microphone if this is being recorded so people can actually hear what you're saying, because they're not going to hear you through any other mics.
I know Roger in the back's been here a long time. Laird, how long have you been here at Rec?
32 years.
32 years, yeah, a long time. There was a lady at the front. Now, I want to say the guy at the front desk here tonight, he's great. But there was a lady there years ago. Her name was Julie. I'll never forget her. Because I would go in to pay my rate, and she'd ask me, and I'd say Cocoa Beach resident. She'd ask me if I was a Cocoa Beach resident. And I'd say for 22 years. And next week, when I go in and pay, she'd ask me again. And the next year it'd be 23 years. And my dad would refuse to come in there because he wanted to strangle her. I went to the Broadmoor Resort, which is a 5-star resort. Now that's a totally different animal, I understand that. I played 9 holes one night. The next day I happened to stop by and look in the pro shop, and the guy behind the counter said, "Mr. Romano, you gonna be playing golf with us today?" And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I mean, it was just a totally, and again, that is a different experience, but there's no reason why this place can't be. I call it the greatest little city in the world. There's no reason why this can't be the greatest little golf course in the world. The people go back and say that, and that's what we ought to get it to. Go ahead, Tim.
That was just.
No,
Never mind.
And I interrupted Wes, so. Sorry.
No, you were talking about finances, so that's I wanted to get kind of updated. I hadn't seen the 2022 numbers where we're at or how the golf course did.
I will be happy to send that out. We've completed our audit just last week.
Okay.
So we have audited 2022 financial statements, and I would be happy to send the golf course information
I had a copy of the
to.
unaudited, but I kind of dug through it, but it didn't seem like they broke it down like they did for 2021. Like I didn't see the breakdown of, did they do it differently?
We
The
have
year before
different
they did-
auditors,
they did golf
21 and
course, they did, like,
22 are
admin,
new
and then-
auditors.
Yeah.
But I can provide, I know what you're asking for, and I
Yeah,
will
like a
provide
detail.
that.
Yeah.
So we break it out by the golf course and the pro shop versus the golf course maintenance versus the restaurant. So
Okay. So we can see
show you
roughly
that.
where, we can see roughly so we'll see where the income is and where the expenses are. for
Yep.
each of those. Perfect.
I mean, we don't do income statements because income statements would presume
Well,
profit, which we do
revenue-
not do.
revenue,
But the net difference between revenue
Revenue.
and expenses, yeah.
Okay.
Right, so
That's cool.
I've honestly never seen one.
What?
A full, a P and L. And you say you can't do
We don't do a
P&L.
profit and loss, but we do net income to
It's the same- It's the
expenditures.
same thing.
2021 it was in
So
there,
it'd be
all
great to
broken out.
see, and then the amount that was gained and lost, or
Yeah, we can do, yeah, I can do the math on it.
you can do the math.
Yes.
By calculating everything.
Right.
What period of time?
That's what I'm saying, it's just a lot of columns of numbers, and then there's really no result. It's like, is this golf course losing residents money?
So we just need an Excel spreadsheet and we can do these calculations.
Yeah,
I mean, with this, we could do that.
But
I mean,
the-
I'm happy to work on that, actually.
I mean, I'm
But
pretty
the
good at math.
important thing is to recognize that the golf course isn't a standalone amenity. I mean, you could see
That's
it
a great
that way,
point.
right? But from the city perspective, there are shared expenses.
That's a great point, just like it's not a standalone, and the restaurant and this auditorium aren't either, but they should be used in conjunction with each other.
Yes.
And that's not happening.
Yeah.
I mean, when the golf course is open, like Steve mentioned earlier about the golf tournament, this golf course is open at 7 o'clock. There are people here at 6:30. And in the summer, probably even earlier, because the sun's coming up earlier, but they don't let them, try not to let them tee off before 7. But the 19th hole doesn't open till 9. They don't open their doors until 9. Sometimes they don't get there till 9. If you want a sandwich, you don't get the sandwich at 9:10. You might get it at 9:30 because they got to get going. So that's, another thing. Laird, how late is the kitchen open?
5 right now.
5 o'clock?
5 o'clock, and then 5 o'clock.
There's an
we have-
after
at
5
o'clock
menu.
We have a after hours
Yeah.
menu now. Yes.
And how late is the bar open?
7. 7 most nights, 2 nights at 6.
Some nights.
Well, 2 nights. A Saturday, and I think, I'll get it for you. But there is, it's
Well, I don't know.
7 most of the nights.
That's my point.
Yes.
If you don't know,
I mean, I know it, but I don't.
I don't know which day it is either, because it seems to change. It seems to be, I see people rustling in the crowd like they want to talk about this, because that's an issue. We've talked, it seems like this presentation is all about doing nothing except changing some numbers here and there. So it's like not putting a lot of effort. It's putting some brain power into it, can give you that, but it's not doing anything other than paper. It's not doing, I don't see it like, hey, let's change our product instead of the price. Let's change our services here, instead of charging more, let's increase our level of service. It didn't show it up there, but I think the reason it didn't show it up there is because the people that come here now still come here because they don't care about the service.
Right.
They don't care about, that's not high on their priority. That's why they come here. People that have that higher on their priority don't come here.
Well,
That's what I'm trying to say.
the survey went to 8,000 people throughout the county, the city, the county, and beyond. The survey was exploratory to find out what people think. I think you're correct in that it didn't show us what to do, but it revealed what's important, which was the intent. And unfortunately, what we saw is there's not really a whole lot here that's important other than people wanting to get out and play golf at a cheap rate. The majority of them don't want to come in afterwards and eat. Now, maybe that's because the experience itself inside is not so good, but I think from here, we've got a very clear picture of what people want, and it's not necessarily a Duran-style golf course. I'm not saying that that couldn't be successful, but I think we need to start, again, with what the residents say instead of what some of us think. And if we need to ask different questions or ask questions again, we should do that. But leading by individual opinion could end up creating a big mess.
Could I ask you a hospitality question? So being a Marriott person and staying in a lot of Marriotts, I mean, I can tell you that there could be 3 or 4 hotels, and I'll pick the Marriott. Why? Because I spend so much money with Marriott, I have status. I get free bottles of water. There's the M Club, free breakfast, and they are rewarding me because I will literally spend another $100 a night to stay there. Does that translate at all into the golf business, that if you start rewarding your most with perks and things, so that does work?
Yeah, that came out in the survey. Almost, 1 in 4 said they would be interested in something like that, paying for that status or membership or whatever that would include things.
I'm being rewarded because I spend the money. I'm not paying for a membership. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like Marriott, you don't pay for the membership.
Right.
To become a Marriott member.
So buy 10 rounds, get 1 free?
Yeah, well, they just reward me because I spend money. Yeah. They give me perks in return. I was just wondering if there's that concept in golf where you start tracking the golfers and be like, hey, Romano's here 3 days a week. I mean, he's hanging out in the M Club and getting a free beer here and there and stuff like that versus, sorry, Tim, you show up once a month. So Tim has a different experience than Steve. Does that work in golf courses, or?
It's not common practice. I mean, it's more of a membership type, like a club structure than a loyalty structure. So you pay for access, you pay for status, but that goes back, I think, to old days of golf. Not that it can't be a different way.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
So okay, thanks.
I mean, we all know walking around Cocoa Beach, everybody knows everybody, and hey, blah 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 blah. I mean, we should have that same happy feeling here, right?
Okay. Okay, so to wrap it up, we'll get financial statements out to the group. We'll ask that you think about between now and the 17th, which is when we're going to schedule the next meeting, is Wednesday, May 17th, also at 4 p.m.
Yeah, ask one question about that.
Of course.
I'm sorry. So as you probably figure, I travel for a living. I'm usually always gone Tuesday through Thursday. I actually delayed a business trip to be here. Is there any way we could do Mondays or Tuesdays? Because Wednesday, I want to participate, but I understand for the rest of the group, if Wednesday's the best, then I respect that.
We'll look at the calendar, and if we can work it out for Mondays, we'll do so.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
In the interim, please think about ideas to bring to the table following on Amy's presentation. Some of the things that we've talked about today is pricing. It's talking about opportunities. It's talking about just what can we do to make it a better experience and therefore maybe generate additional revenues. If there's things that you might think could be improvements, so just come with your ideas, be prepared to talk about those ideas, and we'll just reach out to Pam Kempton or Laird if you need anything in the interim. If you think of something else that you want shared with the group. I think Laird said he's going to send out that old golf study, but take that.
Can we at least on the financials see a year over year or a run rate over 3 years?
Yes, I understand.
Patricia, is there an expectation from you about what this task force is going to do?
My expectation, my understanding of the goal and intent of the task force is to present the commission, which I will bring the results of the task force to the commission, to present them with options, ideas for consideration. So we are just to sort of put our heads together to come up with as many ideas, options, potential ways for them to achieve whatever results they're hoping to achieve.
We also need public comment too.
Certainly. Did you have public comments? Come along then, Ms. Melissa.
She has 2 minutes.
You have 2 minutes.
Three minutes.
Melissa Bachman, 3165 North Atlantic Avenue, Cocoa Beach. Couple of things. The 2016 PGA Foundation study that was done was made by City Manager McNamara. His sole purpose of that study was to raise rates. That's what he wanted. That's what he got them to come back to. They did give a lot of recommendations on what to do, and they have succeeded in doing some of those. The sand traps were one of them. The waste traps were another. The two carts. They recommended 2 carts, and we have 2 carts. We just don't.
Okay.
I'm just telling you, we do have 2 carts. Sometimes they don't all work. So that was the sole purpose of that. If you read it, I was working as marketing in the city at that time, and that's what That's what it was. The other thing is that this facility has been limited from almost day one because we cannot book this area, this auditorium, because it is used Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for the seniors for Freedom 7. They control it per se. We can push them out sometimes, but as marketing director, I only got to push them out maybe 6 times. You need to move, you need to not have it. So you can't market a facility that you can't use. So keep that in mind. There'll have to be changes in that if you want to be able to utilize it. Because we had a number of marketing ideas we were going to do. I mean, corporate challenge would be great. Motivation speakers. We were going to Northam Grumman and talking to them. Wouldn't you like to come here and have lunch and have a guest speaker? Absolutely. Well, we want to do it on Wednesday. Well, we can't. So, keep in mind the limitations that are already in place here that you can recommend that's different, but remember what you're recommending on that. So there is that. There are a lot of people who would love, if you want to talk about, is this making money here at the golf course, or are we, amenity? Let's put everybody together. That pool over there is an amenity. It's also $415,000 worth of expenses the year, okay? No one's coming in saying, are you going to make money at the pool? Because it was decided long ago by commissions long ago that the citizens said they wanted it, so it was an amenity, and therefore you don't look so much. You want to break even? Yes, Orson, we'd love to make money, but the bottom line is we keep a darn pool open because 57 people want to swim there. And that's what...
Pools are not generating money. They
Pardon?
never do unless
I know.
Unless they're holding meets and stuff.
Exactly.
And that's everywhere. That is not just
I know, but it
here
was an
in
amenity that was
Justice
bought
Pool.
by the
There
citizens.
are more than 50 people coming to the pool.
There are only 50 people on their mailing list. That only 57 people have signed up to get news from the pool. So yeah, there's probably a lot more. And the swimmers use it all the time. And the school uses it all the time. When I was here in high school, the school had their own high school pool. Okay, and we didn't have to have this pool for them because we had our own pool and a diving well, and they filled it. The school district filled it in as soon as we built ours. So just keep in mind that citizens like the amenities they have. They understand that not all of them are going to be huge money makers, and some may not even be money makers to break even. But this study is great to bring us back up to where we should be charging what Spessard Holland charges. We should be doing that, and we should have done a long time ago. And one other suggestion is, every other golf course in this area, when you call to make a tee time and you book that time, they take a credit card from you. And if you don't show up, you get charged. Not here. You don't have to show up here. And people know that. So those are a couple things to think about.
And I'll say I've changed my mind, actually. I used to think about it like you could make money, but I realize if we're talking to so many people, this place will never make money. I just want to see, how can it be minimized and figured out so that it operates efficiently and maybe it doesn't require as much money from the general fund. That's all.
Why couldn't we get so many tourists here?
I'm just saying, I've lowered my expectations. I used to talk to some of these guys about, why does this place make money as a taxpayer? Because I'm not a golfer. So I've moderated that, and I now see it as,
Why don't we have a restaurant?
how can you optimize it? That's all.
Well, anybody in the back want to speak?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Anybody else?
Any additional comments?
Roger, I know you want to talk.
My name's Roger Allmuller. I'm at 129 De Leon, own the house down there. First of all, about 8 months ago, everything seems to have changed here. The course is in awful. You're hitting off of cement fairways. If I play in a Tuesday league, I play here 3 days a week. I play in a Tuesday league. I walked in last night at 5:30, went and have a beer, and there was nobody in the bar. Absolutely nobody. They've gone somewhere else. The city is pushing everybody out for some reason. I don't know why. We have a great facility, but we're not Baytree, we're not Duran, we're not Vieira East, we're not even close anymore. The fairways are cement. The greens are okay. A friend of mine played Saturday, he'll never come back. He's a Satellite Beach resident. He said the place is a goat trap. It's awful, folks. And something happened in the last 8 months, and I don't know what it is. And we play here quite a bit. The starters have no idea if you're playing 9 holes or 18 holes. So you've got one course that's got 25 million people on it and nobody on the other 2. These are things you need to think about. We've played here, Steve, you've played here 30 years. Tim, you've probably played here the same. Laird, you play lots also. We all do play, we enjoy it. So please think that while you're in this task force, on why we're here and we're residents. And Dr. Gregory has done a great job on her survey, we thank you, but I don't think we're for profit. If we are, I would like some shares and I'd like to have a dividend every month from the city of Cocoa Beach. But we're not a profit company, we're a city, correct? All right, well, that's my beef, I'm sorry, but we need some help over here right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple more things I want to ask for before we go. First of all, I mentioned Melissa mentioned about having a speaker in here. Well, there's another problem. You can't have a speaker in here unless you bring your own sound system. There is a sound system in the back there. I looked at this probably 6 years ago. Told the city managers and have talked about it every year. I talk to them about something. You look through this whole facility, you'll see speakers everywhere. I said this came up 5 years ago when I mentioned this. And Joe says, oh, yeah, I have a system in my office and turn the music on. So 5 years ago, he started playing music. It hadn't played since they put it in, I guess, I don't know. And you come in here and there's some sound systems, some electronic devices in the back, that you coordinate the sound in this room and that room and all over. But there was only one jack that worked, and it was on that back wall where you can plug a microphone in. There are microphone jacks all along that stage. Only one of them works now because I rewired that one to the other one by just switching jacks in one of the components so I can plug a mic in there and see, But what have they gone to now? They bought a cheap, you can get a nice speaker system now, probably PA system for less than $100. Really nice one. Probably spent $50. We got a speaker system with 2 little speakers, these wires going around. That's the kind of atmosphere we have. It's like they would just kind of put it together. The screen, the golf driving range. Laird, we're on the leisure board. Steve and I are on the leisure board. I talked to you about this last leisure board meeting about not being able to hit from the driving, on the grass driving range, and you said we were, which I hadn't been there for a week at that time, so it went like 6 months. We weren't on the on the grass hitting from the mats. Now I noticed last week that the mats are on the grass. So they put the mats on the grass for some reason in the driving range. So people are, now I guess they could say I'm hitting off the grass, but I'm also on top of the mats that are out there. So you certainly can't grow any grass under those mats. That's one thing. Second is what's the purpose of that? Moving them up so that people think they can hit the ball further because of the ranges. I don't know. But those are a couple points I just wanted to get them out. One thing I would like to ask for you to get for us is a copy of the lease that we have for this property.
What do you mean?
Do y'all realize we leased this property?
Oh, from the state?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you could get that, that'd be
try.
great.
Also, just to add on to
I
what.
just want that on public record so we get it and maybe we'll have it come out in the open.
Also, to add on to what Roger said, I mean, he's right. I mean, when you're on the tee box now, you almost want to hit it in the rough because the rough's better than the fairway. I remember when I used to play a lot in the evening, that's when I played, the sprinklers would come on and you'd have to get off the course or play around them. I haven't seen a sprinkler out there going off in 5 years. Is there an operating sprinkler system out there?
Sprinklers are terrible, terrible. They are on the budget for next year to start redoing the whole sprinkler system.
Because the frog hair, the grass around the green
Yeah.
is so nice. That should be what our fairway looks like.
Yep.
Do we have a superintendent?
What
or is it-
fairways? We don't.
Is there a superintendent here?
Yep.
There is?
But the sprinkler system is in the budget for next year. Well, to start.
Well, that's exactly right. So
start.
that's a good point. The
Yes.
sprinkler system on the budget, but sprinkler system is extremely expensive.
Yes, it
And
is.
you can't do it all in one
And it
year.
has-
It's like buying a fleet of police cars in 1 year. You don't do that. You don't do it that way. You buy 3 or 4
It's 3 year.
every couple
it's a
years.
3-year project.
And, to get your full fleet. And that's a problem that hasn't been taken care
It's been
of.
taken out of the budget. I can guarantee you, it's been
Well,
taken
No,
out of the
there
budget.
was an existing sprinkler. I play out there. There's sprinkler heads all over the place. So
Yes,
why wasn't it
but they're
maintained?
they've been maintained, but they're old. It's time to change it. It's been in the budget for the last couple of years, but it's been taken out.
Yeah.
So hopefully it stays in the budget for next year.
Yeah, just real quick, Amy, thanks for the presentation. That was good. And I think the surveys were right on point, kind of how I feel like the value and quality, but I think we're teetering on that line of value and quality. The quality's gone down so much. And you brought up the practice facility, the driving range. I know people when come, they live right here. They'll drive out to A1A or Duran to go use a practice facility because the driving range is so bad.
I go to Savannah's.
Yeah, I mean, it's the golf course is such, and just you see little things all the time too, like they'll cut the cart path, the concrete, to run a sprinkler line or fix something, a little, and they never come back, put concrete back in it. They just throw some coquina in there and then it gets washed out. I mean, it's just one thing after another.
And on top of the sprinkler system too, I mean, Spessard Holland was brought up a lot. Man, if we had whatever they're doing there at Spessard Holland here, if it pours on a Wednesday night, on Thursday, you can play golf at Spessard Holland. They have an unbelievable drainage system. Here, we get 2 days of rain and we're closed for a week. I don't know, just,
They've done a lot of work there. I brought the GM from Spessard Habitat here to learn. I did. Wandered around with him and got his input on a couple of things that can be done. It's definitely gone downhill.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the maintenance, it's just crazy that the sprinkler system, it's wore out. Well, it's just like your yard. I mean, a sprinkler head breaks, you don't just wait 2 years to replace. You fix it. Piece of pipe breaks, you fix it. It's not all failing at once. I mean, if you're keeping up maintenance, like it wouldn't be failed and gone and need all replaced. I mean, it's not how it works. I mean, it's just. So. Anyway.
We got a lot of work to
I
do.
believe you
Yeah.
said that you wanted, the intent was this would be 3 meetings, this being meeting 1.
Yes, that's the intent.
Looking at that presentation and hearing everything, I don't know that 3 meetings is realistic to put forward
We need a
a
bigger boat.
recommendation.
We're gonna need a bigger
It's a
boat.
start.
Maybe we could break the meetings down into certain,
With that, yes.
the 19th hole, bar, restaurant, this facility, the golf course, what it needs, maybe that'd be easier, I don't know, because we focus on each part. Suggestion, I don't know.
Or
We have a lot of
work
different areas to
session,
cover.
A work session or something. There's a lot to unpack here.
Understood. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.